Hi guys, and welcome to this long overdue update on the Suzuki Cappucino. It feels like forever since I did anything with this. I have been doing little bits and pieces, as you can see. From the last video, I'll have to refresh my memory on the last video as to what stage we were at. But as you can see, I have got all the relevant coats on the body, with the exception of the windshield and the roof area and what have you, which are going to be a satin black, hence the reason that's been masked off and everything sprayed around it. You can see down here that we have some, let's focus down there for you, we've got some nice sort of matching colour theme thing going on with the interior and the seats, using Tamiya NATO black, because I didn't want to go sort of full black. I wanted a nice sort of dark grey but black looking. We've got some blue floor mats, some blue inserts and a slightly paler blue on the seats. This blue incidentally is a MIG ammo acrylic. I'll talk about the paints in a moment. We've got some blue accents on the doors, on the door cards, on the tops of the panels, and on the inserts at the bottom. And you can also see some shiny bits, and those shiny bits are Molotow chrome pen. We've got some shiny bits on the pedals and some buttons and the air vents, and a blue contrasting stripe across the dashboard. And the steering wheel will be similar. I was kind of, this is white currently because I was kind of toying with the idea of doing a wood grain effect, but I don't think that would be fitting with the whole kind of JDM customized theme. So I'm probably just going to go with a grey or with a black on that. I'm pinging things across my bench, that's not good. The underpan is just currently done in the blue without a shiny coat, because that's going to be dusted down a little bit and weathered a little bit. I don't like to see super duper clean shiny under trays, underpans, because even on new cars you kind of get a little bit of dust. I mean, they never finish quite as nicely as the upper surface, and you always get a little bit of dust and such, even if it's not grime and muck and dirt. So I don't really like seeing super duper shiny underpans. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't sit right with me as somebody who has worked as a mechanic in the past. So I'm going to do a little bit more work on here. We've got the sump pan and the oil filter and bits and pieces picked out in black. The engine block, or the bit of the engine block that you can see, is going to be done in aluminium, and then this surrounding area is going to be done in black. The gearbox in aluminium, the exhaust pipe in a steel kind of colour, and you know, just a few odds and sods to pick those out to differentiate them on the underpan. Going back to the body shell, you can see that that's been painted up, decaled and what have you, and I'll just go through the procedure that we did with this. The primer was high coat lacquer primer, which is decanted from a rattle can, as per my decanting from a rattle can video, where you pierce the can, allow it to degas, cut the can open, pour the paint out, little drop of cellulose thinners in, swish it around to get the remnants that you missed, pour it out, and keep that in a jar, allow it to degas, and then you've got a jar of lacquer paint ready to go for when you need it. I prefer lacquer primer over any other kind of primer. It just works. It works incredibly well, and it sticks to the plastic, and it provides an excellent base, and it's just my primer of choice. The colour coat, unusually for me, was actually an acrylic. It's a water-based acrylic, and it's a MIG acrylic colour. It's this one here. And the reason I use this is because, quite simply, I liked the colour. It's medium blue, a MIG 103, medium blue, and I just simply like the colour. I thought it was a really nice shade of blue, and as you can see, it's actually come out a little bit darker than it looks through the translucent sides of the bottle, which a little bit darker than I expected, but it's still nice. I like it. And I would normally go with an enamel or with a lacquer for the body colour if I'm going to, if I know that I'm going to be putting a lacquer clear over the top, which I have done. But I thought, I'm going to have a go with this and see. Worst comes to the worst, I can always strip it and cut it back and what have you, because you're always taking a bit of a risk if you're spraying lacquer clear, or if you're spraying lacquer over an acrylic and over decals and what have you. You're taking a little bit of a risk of it lifting those or wrinkling them. but with careful application, it does work. So I happened to buy a batch of paints recently for various Tamiya and bits and pieces that were in there, but in among them were some Vallejo Air and these MIG colours. And I thought, well, you know, they'll come in handy, stick them in the drawer, and I might use them for bits and pieces. Typically with acrylics, I will use Tamiya for spraying and either Citadel or Model Colour for brushing. But I thought I'd give them a go, and I'm very pleased with the colour of these. So it's had this MIG medium blue acrylic paint all over the body shell. That's about 3 coats. That was allowed to dry and cure. The boot or trunk and the bonnet or hood, depending on which side of the pond you are, have been decaled with, these are homemade custom decals printed on LaserJet decal paper. And I wanted to go with a sort of manga stroke anime theme to go with the whole sort of JDM customization thing. So that's what I did. That's what I went with here. To make the mask for cutting these out, I used masking tape on the bonnet, cut to shape. I then peeled the masking tape, placed that on the back of the decal paper, and then cut that out so that it was almost bang on the right kind of shape and size. So they were applied, and they had 2 or 3 heavy applications of microsol to allow them to conform to the curves, because the bonnet's got quite a couple of complex curves, the hump over the middle and then the hump up to the wings or the fenders, and then the little bit of a slope up here and what have you, and then the boot obviously with it curving sort of that way and that way. So that had a few applications of microsol to allow that to settle down, and then the decals were left for a day or two to fully dry. I then clear coated over this with Zero Lacquer Clear. Zero Paints Clear Coat Lacquer. It is ready to spray, pre-thinned lacquer clear. So you literally pop this into your airbrush, decant it straight into your airbrush and squirt away. Now, obviously when I say that, I don't mean, of course, that you just hose it on and hope for the best. The process for applying clear, and this applies to using pretty much any clear coat other than a water-based acrylic, which will be safe over pretty much anything. You apply a couple of mist coats. The biggest problem most people make, I have found, using clear coats and especially lacquer clears, is that they get too impatient. And this is one of the problems, and this is one of the things that's led to people using acrylic paints, is because they want things that will dry quickly. And I get that. I completely get the impatience and wanting to get on with things. But people get too impatient and they try throwing things on too quickly, and that's when problems occur. And from my previous experience in my previous working life, having sprayed full-size vehicles, patience is key. Preparation and patience are the 2 key components you need to get a nice paint finish. So the key is a very light mist coat. You want to see it land on the model and cover everything, but it needs to be a very light mist coat. You then wait 5 minutes. You're perfectly okay to sit your airbrush down and leave it sitting there for 5 minutes with the clear still in it. It's not going to do any damage. It's not going to set in 5 minutes. It's not a problem. Wait 5 minutes and then do another mist coat of clear, and then wait 5 minutes and then lay down your first wet coat, wait 5 minutes and then lay down another wet coat. Typically that's enough. Sometimes you might want to lay down another couple, but the key thing is wait at least 5 minutes between coats to allow the solvent from the previous layer to flash off, because it's the solvent that does the damage to the underlying layers. So this has had 3 wet coats on top of a couple of mist or tack coats, as we used to refer to them. And you can see there we've got a nice shine as it stands. However, this can be improved upon, and it will be improved upon by the next step, which is going to be a bit of a light going over with some micromesh. You can kind of see on the boot or the trunk lid where I've given that a little gentle scuff over with some 8,000, I think, some 8,000 and some 12,000 grit micromesh. This is prior to polish. You can see it's nice and shiny, it looks good. And I will do the same on the rest of this body. So that's the next step. I'm going to micromesh the body, and then it will be buffed up with Tamiya compound to get that nice and shiny. And then once that's done, I will need to prep this this scuttle panel here and the windscreen wipers and what have you, and then the frame, which is going to be a satin black along with the roof. This is why the frame doesn't look like it's finished, because it isn't. That's going to be a different colour as per the real car. And then there's a couple of little bits like these vents on the side which need to be black, and the door handles, which I'm also going to do in a contrasting sort of accent. So that's where we're at the moment. The next point that you'll see this will be after it's been micromeshed. So got a little bit more assembly done on here. We've got the seats fastened in, and I need to make some seat belts to fit in there and paint up the steering wheel before I fit that to there, decal the instrument panel, and then I can glue this in place. As you can see, the door cards are fastened on as well. So that's the interior coming along. I've also down here got the various parts of the roof and windscreen assembly masked up, ready for spraying. And this is the rear portion. This is the central portion, or the roof itself, which is also a T-top kind of thing. And what I'm going to do is paint up the whole lot. This is what you would get with the rear glass and the T-top bit removed, so it's like a convertible. And then you've got this bit plus the roof, or this bit plus this, which is with the T-panels, Targa panels removed. And then this is the windscreen. I'm going to paint the whole lot up so I can switch and change. So that's not going to be glued in when it's completed. Then we've got the body shell. This is after it has been micromeshed. Let me focus on that for you. This is the body shell after it's been micromeshed with 6,000, 8,000 and 12,000 grit micromesh. And as you can see, that's been smoothed off nicely, and it will get shinier and smoother because the next step is Tamiya compound. And once you've got it flattered with a micromesh to this kind of standard, you don't need the coarse compound at all. I just go in with the fine compound and then the finishing compound, and that gives you a glass-like finish. So that's it with the micromeshed finish. So the next clip will be with after it's been compounded. But hi again, and having just completed a buff with the Tamiya fine compound, we're now getting ready to use the finishing compound for the really fine last coat. And this is where we are at shiny wise with after a buff of the fine compound. So hopefully that comes across quite well on the video. I don't know how well it's going to show, but you can see it's smoothed it down somewhat. So, and then the next step is the Tamiya finishing compounds. I've now got the speedometer or instrument binnacle decal fitted onto here, which you probably can't see very clearly, granted, but let's try and focus in for you on that. And I need to put some gloss varnish over that just to replicate a gloss cover, as you would have. And then once I've got the final polishing done on the main bodywork, I then need to mask off and spray the frame in satin black as per the original one. And then I will be putting the chrome parts using Molotow, the Molotow chrome pen, on the headlights and on the tail lights at the back there. We're back with the final buffing, polishing done. with the Tamiya finishing compound. So we've gone through, we didn't use the coarse because I've found that after the 1200 grit micromesh you get quite a nice smooth surface as is, and so just use the miss the coarse compound, use the fine compound, polishing compound, and then the finishing or the finish compound, and this gives you a nice glass smooth shine, as hopefully you can see if I sort of twiddle that about in the light a little bit. And this bit over the decals there, it just makes that look nice and smooth and glossed over as if it were a vinyl wrap or something. And as you can see on the sides there, and on the bonnet or the hood, as our American friends call it, again over the decal that's covering the entirety of that, and it gives you a nice overall glassy sheen. So that's the bodywork finished with its nice shiny finish, which I'm very pleased with, and I do like that shade of blue. I think it's a lovely shade of blue, that. So, and it makes a nice change because there are so many red seems to be such a prominent colour with cars. When you pick car kits, seems to be so many red cars. So many cars that look sort of good in red as well, which they do. But it's nice to just use a different colour, and blue doesn't seem to be one that's seen very often. I do like a nice shade of blue, so there we go. And obviously with its contrasting, or not contrasting, with its complementary, that's the word I'm looking for, sort of bits of blue inside the cabin there. And just as a final thing, if I can focus down on this for you, get a bit closer maybe, and hopefully you can see there we've got a couple of coats of Tamiya X22 gloss varnish over the instrument binnacle to give you that glossy reflective plastic sort of plexiglass or whatever material it is that's over the clogs there. So that's this most recent update. I know it's been a little while. Hopefully the next update won't be quite so long. And now that that's out of the way, because that does take quite a bit of time just in waiting time in between allowing coats to dry and that kind of thing. And hopefully the next one, as I say, won't be quite so long. And the next update will be covering the Floorpan, running gear and what have you, and it shouldn't be too far from the finish line from there. So thanks for watching, keep an eye out for the next one, and we'll see you in the next video.